guys, today's video is going to be a marketing analysis on Colt's new revolver line. So previously, in terms of the vintage Colts, we've talked about their old guns like the official police. Then we talked about the Colt Python, old model, I guess you could call these. Then we talked about the Colt Trooper and the Colt Cobra. So now that we have an understanding about their old revolver line, let's go ahead and talk about their new revolver line. Now, Colt said maybe back in 2005 that they would never make a revolver after they stopped making the Python, and obviously that was just a marketing ploy because they did come back with the Colt Cobra in 2017. Now, I distinctly remember that the promotional image for the Colt Cobra did not have a Colt cylinder release. I don't remember if it was the Smith push forward cylinder release or the Ruger push in cylinder release. Now what I mean by that is if you look at any Colt, any old Colt, this part here is called a cylinder latch or cylinder release. The way that the cylinder comes out of the gun, you have to pull the cylinder backwards. Okay, so if I pull the cylinder back and then I push out the cylinder, you can load and unload the gun, right? And the Smith & Wesson, theirs uses a forward push. So this cylinder latch or release here, if you push this forward, you can release the cylinder. And then of course you can load and unload the gun. Now, as I said, I don't remember what release the Colt Cobra 2017 had, but I know it wasn't the Colt cylinder latch release. And that was pretty off-putting to me because it kind of gave me the impression that Colt was not making these guns. They do have a habit of outsourcing their guns, whereas they'll contract it out to other people to make their guns. So of course they would put on a cylinder latch that worked for them, but of course we don't know as the traditional Colt cylinder release. Now when the 2017 Colt Cobra came out, it did appear to me to be more of a recreational gun rather than a fighting gun. The first thing that stood out to me was the fiber optic front sight. Typically for a fighting gun, you kind of want just your traditional blacked out sights, kind of a ramp sight. Not necessarily like on this Cobra, but I'd say more like on this Smith, right? So you'll see that the ramp is just it's a simple ramp, blacked out ramp, and then a kind of a tunnel in the rear sight, so you'll end up like that. That's your traditional fighting sight. And the Colt Cobra that came out, it was like a range gun. It wasn't necessarily a fighting gun or a defensive gun, especially with the rubber grips. I wonder what the purpose was, what was the marketing idea was with the Colt Cobra, because rubber grips are great for range shooting, but they're hard to conceal because they take up so much space. And then the fiber optic front sight, again, it's a nice thing for the range and accuracy training, but it's just not for the purpose of self-defense fighting. In my opinion, I think that they should have just had it where a simple ramp front sight and wood grips as well, to give off the impression that this was a fighting gun, a defensive gun that you could have with you at all times. Now, I know prices vary, but I think at the time the Colt Cobra 2017 came out, I think they were asking maybe $899 for it. And I know Colts have a reputation of just asking for too much money just because you're paying for the word Colt on the thing. But, that was a missed opportunity in terms of marketing, because your biggest rival is Smith & Wesson, right? And Smith prices are pretty fair, to be honest. It's just you guys tend to overcharge just because it's a Colt. And you could have had a great opportunity to not only steal some sales, but also create a loyal fan base. So instead of your $899 asking price, let's say you did $500 asking price instead. You already have two important advantages over your rival. Your rival is Smith & Wesson. The first advantage is that you guys have one more round, right? The Colt Cobra has 6 shots, right? There's 6 shots in the gun, right? And the Smith Model 36 only has 5 shots in the gun. And as far as I can tell, in terms of the old Smith Model 36 and an old Colt Cobra, they're not that far different size from each other. So here's an example. I have a holster for, it's specifically for J-frames, okay? It's for J-frames. And I used to have a Model 36. Unfortunately, that gun broke. There was some, there's some kind of metal piece in the frame and it broke, so the whole gun was useless. But from what I remember, the Model 36 was very close to this Charter Arms undercover, old model, not new model. It was pretty close in size, and it's also got 5 shots as well. So it's pretty close to a Model 36, a Smith Model 36. And this holster is made for J-frames. And if I remember with the Model 36, it was pretty loose actually. It wasn't like a tight fit, but it was pretty loose. And with the Charter Arms undercover, it's pretty loose as well, right? And it's a little bit better fit with the Colt Cobra. And keep in mind, this is a J-frame holster. So that's a huge advantage. If you know that your product is similar to the holster to your rival, then there's really no reason to upscale the gun. Because from what I can tell, it looks like the 2017 Colt Cobra, it was upscaled. You guys did make it bigger. Now, unless it was to make it bigger to fit the holster better, the J-frame holster better, fine. But, I don't have any of the new Colt revolvers, so I can't tell. But, if it did fit the exact same way like it does with your old models, then there's really no reason to upscale the gun. You already got those sales in the bag. And Smith can pretend like they don't hear it, but lots of people hate the Smith & Wesson internal lock. I will not buy a new Smith & Wesson with an internal lock. Like, I don't even care. And I like some of their new stuff too. I like their K-frame 44 Magnum, Model 69, I think. I like some of their new stuff, but I'm not going to buy it because it has the internal lock. The only Smiths I have is the Model 10-7, which is my fighting gun, and a Model 29-2. Okay, I won't even bother with Smith's new guns. Yeah, they can take the lock off the DAO guns, but, I'm an old guy, and I feel like a revolver should have a hammer. It just looks weird to me if it doesn't. So, as far as the marketing, advertising, unless the size difference was to be a better fit to Smith & Wesson's J-frame holster, that was unnecessary, and you already had an advantage over the Smiths with an additional round in the gun. You have 6 shots, and Smith only has 5, and so you could have easily stolen some sales from them and created a loyal fan base by not charging so much right away. Now, after Colt Cobra's initial release, they did offer variants of the same gun. One was the Night Cobra, which was a matte black finish on the gun, which was also hammerless, so it was double action only. They also released a Classic Cobra, which was nothing more than just the cylinder being polished. And then they had the two-tone, which was, well, it's a two-tone gun. Now, I think two-tone works okay for autoloaders, but it's quite ugly on a revolver. So, yeah, I don't think that was a good decision. Personally, for me, I would say I would cut all of it out. I just keep the regular Cobra, and you have that $500. Then make a blued Cobra. Okay, it doesn't have to be royal blue, but make it blued, and you can charge $700 for that. And then make a bright stainless steel finish Cobra, and you could charge $900 for that. And hammerless could be an option if people want that. I think that would be a much better line. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm gonna guess you probably don't have impressive numbers for the Classic Cobra or the two-tone finish, the Night Cobra, right? I mean, those are gimmicky. It just sounds gimmicky. It doesn't really have a purpose. Now, now that I think about it, actually, you guys did release the Bright Cobra, didn't you? They did. They did release a Bright Cobra. So, okay, so keep the regular Colt Cobra, $500. Make a blued Colt Cobra for $700, and then keep your Bright Cobra, but charge $900 for that. Now, I know that they're going to overcharge for that. I think they wanted like $1,300 for the Brett Cobra. But again, we're trying to build a loyal fan base, and trust me, it'll pay off in the future. Now in 2019, Colt released a new Colt King Cobra. Now I didn't have a King Cobra to show you guys, but I am well aware of the Colt Cobra. So the first thing I'd have to say is that the Colt Cobra that they released was a 3-inch gun. That is very odd. That's very odd to me because most guns and holsters are going to be for 2-inch, 4-inch, and 6-inch in terms of a wheel gun. But then you come out with a 3-inch gun. And I just have to wonder if that's just bad marketing decision, right? Because there seems to be a trend with Colt. I like to think of them as like the guns of Street Fighter. You know, Street Fighter, they'll have like the regular game, and then they'll just add one or two things and call it a whole new thing, and then add one more two things and call it another thing. It's kind of like the same thing here, right? So Colt's like, here's a regular one, here's a Night Cobra, here's a two-tone. It's like nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like nobody cares. Why did Colt think a 3-inch gun was a good idea? That's very uncommon. You know, I can't think of too many guns that did the 3-inch thing. Maybe Kimber? Did Kimber's K6S do that? Again, very odd and very uncommon. Like, what are people going to do with this? It's like you can't decide. Is it a fighting gun or is it a recreational gun? You know what I mean? So I just thought, wow, you really did that. You really released the Colt King Cobra with a 3-inch barrel. Another thing that I noticed about the Colt King Cobra, the new 2019 one, is that it's actually a lot smaller than the vintage or old model Colt King Cobra. It's a lot smaller than that. And another thing too was the internals were different. Okay, now when back with the Colt Cobra 2017, Colt used a new leaf spring on the gun. It's the LL2, linear enhanced leaf spring. Okay, so and that's fine for the Colt Cobra because the Colt Cobra did have a leaf spring. But here's the thing: the Colt King Cobra didn't have a leaf spring. The old vintage model Colt King Cobra kind of had like that coil spring, like you see in like Ruger revolvers. It used that. Now, granted, I understand why would they make two different actions on a gun line. That'd be too much work. So I can understand that they, used the same linear enhanced leaf spring, but then it makes you question: is that really a King Cobra though? You know what I mean? If you change the internals on something, does it really deserve the title of, the King Cobra if the old one used a different model? Well, just something that was interesting to me because I looked at videos when I saw that. I was like, doesn't the Colt King Cobra have a coil spring? Yes, I'm right, it does. Another note on the size of the Colt King Cobra: since the new one was smaller, it's kind of like, why is that? What is the case for that? If it's going to be smaller, then it sounds like you're trying to go for more fighting gun, self-defense firearm rather than a bigger gun, which would serve better as a recreational gun. Assuming the steel is the same or stronger than the steel back in, I don't know, when the Colt King Cobras came out, like maybe 1970. If it's stronger, then it's like, oh, you could make it even smaller. And again, it's like, it sounds like you're trying to go for more of that self-defense fighting gun, especially since the Colt Cobra was only 38 special. So it sounds like you kind of wanted this to be the same, but for 357 Magnum, right? Now, in my opinion, I would go ahead and just drop the 2019 King Cobra. I wouldn't even release it, the 3-inch model. I would just say make it in a 4-inch model, have wood grips, have a non-adjustable front and rear sight, and then just charge $700 for that, and make that your base model King Cobra. Now, the second model that I would put in the Colt King Cobra line is going to be the exact same as the 4-inch base model, except it would be a 2-inch barrel. It would have wood grips, non-adjustable front and rear sight, and I would also offer it as a hammerless option if people wanted that. People like that for their carry guns. And I would charge the same price as I would for the 4-inch King Cobra, which would be $700. So the first model is $700, and then this one is still $700. Now, Colt released their Colt King Cobra Target, which was the same as the 4-inch gun, except that it had adjustable sights. I like that, but I'd actually go ahead and just polish the whole gun. I would make that bright stainless steel as well, and then I would charge probably $1,000 for that. I'd also go ahead and add, either by special request or if you want to make a line of it, go ahead and have the Colt King Cobra in blued as well. Um, I mean, I would say royal blue, but I don't know how you're going to do price for that. But even if it's a regular blue, have the exact same gun and charge $900 for that. So for the Colt King Cobra line, we have the Colt King Cobra regular base model 4-inch, $700. People could also have the same gun as a Cobra Carry, that would also be $700. You have the Colt Cobra Target, bright polish would be $1,000, and then the Colt King Cobra blued, and that would be $900. Now we come to 2020, particularly January 2020, and we've had Colt being sneaky with like, we're not going to do a Python, blah, blah, blah. They lied, they did a Python. It came out January 1st, 2020. It was their new Colt Python. Now they released two models. It was the 4.25-inch and then a 6-inch. Now, if you're wondering about the 4.25, I think the reason some manufacturers do that is so they can sell some guns to Canada, because Canada has a thing where they won't import like a 4-inch gun. Like it has to be longer than 4 inches. And so some manufacturers, including this one, they'll just extend the barrel by 1/4 inch, and there you go. It can be imported into Canada. Now the 2020 Colt Python is kind of getting to where I expected it to be. When Colt was doing their little game, I just figured that, yeah, the Colt Cobra is 38 special. Then they'll release a 357 model, which was the Colt King Cobra. And now they're going to do the Python. You know, finally we're here, basically. You know, that Street Fighter marketing method. So we're here, the new 2020 Colt Python. First of all, I think that using the matte stainless, you know, that kind of base model, I actually wouldn't have done that. I would actually just trash that right away. This is the Colt Python, right? This is the Rolls Royce of revolvers, right? Everybody wants this. Everybody loves this. Why would you insult that legacy by having it in an ugly matte stainless finish? I would just go ahead and just immediately only offer it in blued or bright stainless steel right off the bat. You know, just protect the legacy, honor the legacy, keep it at blued or bright stainless right away. So in my opinion, I'll go ahead and keep the 4.25-inch and 6-inch Pythons, but instead of the matte stainless, just make them bright polish. Bright polish right away, that's it. And then I would also add an additional line, the exact same, but it's in a blue finish. So we're going to have 4.25-inch and 6-inch blued Pythons and bright stainless Pythons as well. And by special request, if people will pay for it, you could also offer snub Pythons, 2-inch Pythons, if people want it. You know, you never know. So our baseline, bright polished stainless steel, I would sell that for $2,000. And then for the blued, maybe $1,800. Now again, we're underselling for a reason, right? We're underselling for a reason to build a fan base, you know, a loyal fan base. And like I said, it's going to pay off in the future. Now, a year later, Colt would release their Colt Anaconda in 2021. Now, I don't have an Anaconda, at least in terms of a gun. But I am aware that the Colt Anaconda is the biggest revolver in Colt's line. I forget what the frame size is. Maybe it's mm, but it's a pretty big gun. You know, that's the biggest gun they have. And in the vintage line, it was meant particularly for 44 Magnum, which is what this one is as well in 2021. So their offerings were in a 6-inch and an 8-inch barrel. And honestly, that's pretty good. I think Colt's kind of getting to where they need to be in terms of, you know, what offerings are available in each line. They really kind of figured it out. The Colt Cobra was very gimmicky, you know, just kind of weird stuff. Colt King Cobra was also kind of gimmicky, but they seem to have gotten their act together by the time the Python and the Anaconda line were complete. The only difference I would say is I would offer a line of Colt Anacondas in blued, also in 6 and 8-inch barrel. I would also offer a bright stainless steel. So you can have your base model. You can have your ugly matte stainless base model Anacondas. I would just offer them in blued as well, have a second line of those. And then by special request, if people want, also you can make a bright stainless steel Colt Anaconda in the 6 and 8 inch configuration as well. Actually, you know what? For the bright stainless steel special request, also give them wood grips too. You just give them wood grips too. I mean, I know what you're thinking, like, oh, well, that would be uncomfortable. I've shot a lot of 44 Magnums to this Smith & Wesson Model 29-2. Yeah, it has a wood grip. Just use one of these, I know you guys have it. Use a really big, oversized wood grip. It's going to be fine. And if people want, you could also offer the Colt Anaconda in a 4-inch barrel. Yes, I know it sounds kind of silly, but some people want that. And hey, if people are going to pay money, you might as well take the money, right? So our marketing line for the Colt Anaconda is going to be the base models available in 6 and 8 inch. And I would sell those for, I'd say 1600. And then we'll have the same guns in blued, and I would charge 1800. And then as far as a bright stainless, that special request with the wood grips, I think you can ask 2000. Maybe it's a little money. You can ask for 2000 for that, I think. Now I want to talk about the future of Colt. The Colt Anaconda is the newest gun that they released, but it doesn't have to be the end of the line. There are many things you could do. I'm thinking you guys could release a legacy collection, and some of the guns you could make for those would be Army Special, right? Which is an offshoot of the official police. You could make something like that. You could offer a new trooper, you could offer a lawman, right? There's a lot of things you can do. Your revolver line doesn't have to stop at the Anaconda. So an example is you could put a 4-inch barrel on the Cobra or King Cobra, and you could print that as the Army Special or official police. Another example is you could put 4-inch barrels on the Python, and that can be a trooper or a lawman. Now, granted, obviously the barrel should look exactly like the legacy barrels. So if you're going to if you're going to make an official police, new official police legacy collection, it should look like this, right? Without the unshrouded ejector rod. And I think another thing you could do too is that you could also offer a snub nose and a 6-inch, right? And you could also make them like limited production run. Like there's not that many of them, right? And I would only offer them in blued or bright stainless steel because this is special, right? This is the legacy collection. It's going to be a limited production. So, don't you dare put an ugly matte stainless steel finish on it. Just some more offshoot ideas too is that you could have a new Colt Diamondback, right? That's just a Python barrel on a D frame. I mean, that would require more work, I guess, but you could do that. You could have a new Colt Diamondback. There are a lot of things you can do. You can take from your old revolver line and try to apply it to continue your current revolver line, and yeah, just do it. Well, that's all I had to say about Colt's new revolver line. As I said, I didn't buy any of their new guns, but I just thought it would be fun to kind of look at their marketing decisions, analyze what decisions they made. Did it make sense? Could it have been improved? I don't know if I would call myself a Colt fan. I just got into it years ago, and I was like, I want this and that and this and that. And yeah, I just learned about it, and I thought, well, were these the best possible decisions for Colt's new revolver line? And in my opinion, I think they dropped the ball quite a bit. There's a lot they could have done, and they can still do today. You can always fix things. It's never too late. But what are your guys' thoughts? Do you like Colt's new revolver line? Do you think there are some things they could have done to have a better premiere, better sales? Or do you think they did everything exactly right and you wouldn't change a thing? I hope this video was interesting for you guys. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.